Hello and welcome. I'm Derek Archer, your host today. I'm the founder and owner of Hit Your Mark Media, a full stack digital marketing agency that works with PayPal. I'm also a PayPal champion, and I have a very special guest joining us on this PayPal Dev Talk today. Naveen Patil is the tech lead for AI dev tools at PayPal, and he's been working on a really cool project lately. So, welcome, Naveen. Can't wait to hear what you have to share with us.
Thank you, Derek, for hosting me, and would love to share my insights in the AI world with the audience. Yeah.
Before we get started, Naveen, tell us a little bit about yourself. How long have you been with PayPal? How long have you been a developer? What's your favorite coding language?
hmm Nice. I love the coding language question. So, yeah, I started my PayPal journey back in 2017, and it's been close to 8 years. I know, a long time, but yeah, that's how PayPal takes care of its employees, though. um,
Good sign.
Yeah, good sign, right? Yeah. In terms of my favorite languages, I love coding in Golang and Java. So I've worked on different projects within PayPal and Golang as well. And lately, I've been part of the AI journey, working on the PayPal AI assistant. So yeah, I would love to share what we have got.
Well, the PayPal assistant, you just mentioned that, and we had a chance on the last PayPal Dev Talk to interview Janani, who was working on the SDK V5 to V6 here and had a demo for us on that. So, were you part of developing PayPal AI Assistant itself?
Yes, yes, you heard it right. Yeah, so we started off this journey like primarily in the AI extension back a year back, and we started working in the extension space maybe a year and a half back. So it's been phenomenal that we have reached so far, and yeah, it's great that the tool is being used proactively in different parts of the world. And I would love to share what are the things that helped us build this tool and what are the problems and things that we learned on the way.
That's great, Naveen. And I think that we made a really big splash last time talking about how easy it is for the PayPal AI assistant to help a developer migrate from the SDK V5 to V6. And so,
Mhm.
what are some of the other maybe benefits that you have in mind when you built this tool?
Let me take a step back and look at the bigger picture of how and why we started this particular tool in mind. So there are still merchants and developers who are using NVP SOAP style of PayPal. So that's a technology that has been there maybe 10 years back, a decade back.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
so we are now in the REST API world, GraphQL world. Things have changed. You have AI as well. So how do you actually bring those customers and users from that experience to the new experience? So that was our first problem statement. Okay, how do we ensure this process is seamless? This process is done by minimal oversight and is automated as well. So what better way than AI? So AI is actually doing great job in trying to upgrade your systems and trying to make sure you have good coding practices as well as good areas of improvement within the existing system. So that's where we thought, okay, this is a natural blend between using AI as well as having a good problem statement and making sure we upgrade merchants as well as developers experience to the newer experience that PayPal is offering.
So you mentioned MVP and SOAP, right? It's really kind of the foundation of Web 2.0, and really we start getting into REST APIs, and that helps us to go to a whole new level in Web 2.0. But now you hear this talk about MCP servers and agentic e-commerce and what people are kind of calling Web 3.0. And so, do you think that this PayPal AI assistant is going to help us bridge the gap, maybe the next level from APIs to MCPs?
Uh, it's so insightful of you to have a knowledge about all these things that PayPal is actually building. So yeah, we started off this particular project with the idea that once the user is upgraded to the newer experience, what more can we offer to the user? And if you look at MCP and the agentic commerce, they are primarily built on the newer areas, which is REST APIs, SDKs. So once the users or merchants are actually upgraded to the newer systems, they can actually leverage these new technologies or areas that PayPal actually built for the developers or the merchant community. So you can use this to power your agentic commerce experience and ensure that you're part of the AI journey in the e-commerce world.
Fantastic, Naveen. I couldn't help but kind of nerd out when we saw the V5 to V6, and it sounds like you're using PayPal AI Assistant to support as an infrastructure the whole dev tech stack for developers
Hmm.
working with PayPal. So PayPal vaulting, troubleshooting errors, uh, possibly Fastlane, things like that seem to be on the radar.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have already tackled some of the problems related to these experiences. And if you play around with the AI assistant, you will see the vaulting experience as well. Fastlane is not there yet, but that's also one of the areas we are looking into expanding. And you have newer capabilities that can be part of this whole journey, which is V5 to V6, like you mentioned. But we are also working on V4 to V6, which can be a great addition to developers and merchants who are still using the V4 version. So again, this falls into our principle of upgrading the whole stack experience from what it was to what it can be, and make sure that you're part of the whole AI journey of PayPal.
So Naveen, let's get into that a little bit. So, what we talked about in the last PayPal Dev Talk was around how PayPal AI Assistant helps solve for a lot of the traditional developer problems in looking at documentation, frequently asked questions, getting onto chat forums, whatever, and trying to understand how to roll out these innovative technologies that PayPal continues to develop and release. What were some of the reasons that you decided PayPal AI Assistant would be the right solution to solve for those problems and challenges?
I think overall, when you look at today's technology and the AI space, let me ask you this question. When was the last time in the recent months that you actually went to Stack Overflow, read a bunch of troubleshooting problems? Think about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah.
it's been rare now, and the occurrences will be rare in years to come. So that is the whole idea, that not many people are going to go read your documentation. They're going to go use the fast techniques, which are the AI techniques. So they will actually go find answers to solutions, try it out, or work on these areas. So this is where the whole AI assistant actually comes into play. We want the entire knowledge of developer documentation put into the AI assistant, so that even if you have any questions related to APIs, SDKs, client side, you have any issues integrating with PayPal in terms of the coding, in terms of troubleshooting experiences, you can actually reach out to us. We are literally there to help you and guide you into this whole upgrade experience, or make sure you are at parity with what PayPal is actually offering to you.
And Naveen, one of the things I love about what you just said there is that you're there to help. Well, not you personally, right? And hopefully not even really any PayPal developer there personally. That's kind of the whole point of a PayPal AI assistant. It's like having a PayPal senior developer over your shoulder, helping you to get your project completed with little to no errors, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like I love to put it that way, that we got your back, and we are looking at you in terms of learning from you, in terms of how you use the AI assistant, in terms of sharing knowledge about what are the different areas of improvement we could have, and what are the new things that you want from us as well. So we started off having some capabilities, but the future is still, we don't know about it. Like, it can be a lot of interesting problems and scalable solutions that can be helpful for a wider variety of audiences.
Just getting on forums and even calling a number, getting on chat support. It's so frustrating. It's mind numbing. You just feel like I've got to block off time just to be able to talk with someone about this, and then I have to explain it. And then what if that person doesn't have context in a specific area? Then they have to get me over to someone else who can help. And it's just so painful that we tried generally. And maybe I'm speaking mostly for myself here, not to get onto a support line because it's just I'd rather try to figure it out on my own. But AI has sped up that workflow and process so much now that it like has the context I need with the training that you've already put into it
Yeah.
through the PayPal DevDocs and then all the new prototypes you're coming out with. So maybe let's talk about that for a second. Where could a developer like I actually start playing with and using a PayPal AI assistant?
Yeah. So when you talk about PayPal AI Assistant, fundamentally, if you have any problem related to your older integration, or you want to move from one experience to another experience, and those can be older experiences like MVP, you're using PayPal MVP or REST API or SOAP APIs, and you want to actually move to PayPal REST APIs, I think that's one of the fundamental use cases that we want developers and merchants to actually use AI Assistant. And also you have newer capabilities, like you're already on V5, but you want to move to V6, or you're already on V4, you want to move to V6. So those are some capabilities that we would love to, we would love our developers to start using this particular tool. But at the same time, there are also these areas where if you have any issues with your current integration in PayPal, what are some of the troubleshooting issues that you have faced, you can actually ask the AI assistant to try and fix it and get your system up to date.
So, do you have plans to expand that to other IDEs?
Yeah, absolutely. There are interesting areas. I feel like I really love. There's one example that I want to share is when you use Tesla and you get an update on your Tesla car, you actually look at the release notes. I
Yeah.
think for us as well, we want our developers and merchants to look at our release notes of what's been released and what are the things that you would look out for. Give us feedback about that, and we'd love to share more things on our release notes and see where it goes from there.
Where could a developer find those release notes?
We have it hosted on github.com/PayPal. So you find it VS Code repo. So that's an open source repo that we have, and you could see the releases. Also, we have releases under the marketplace. Like once you install the extension, you will see the different versions. But for the exact release notes, you might want to go to the GitHub repository.
Fantastic. Yeah. So, in talking about GitHub, you chose to use the GitHub Copilot to be the foundation here for the AI experience with PayPal AI Assistant. Is that right?
Yeah, totally.
Okay. Hmm. What um what made you go down that path versus maybe creating a standalone web interface or a CLI tool? Uh, yeah, why GitHub Copilot?
If you look at a year back, there weren't many CLI tools. I think Cloud Code just came a year back when we are actually trying to work with this particular solution. Even Gemini came mid of the year, Gemini CLI. So there weren't many extensions as well that were available. There weren't many CLIs that were available. The only
Hmm.
good counterpart was Copilot, and Copilot was really strong because they had support for different models, and it was right within the editor itself. That's where we wanted our developers to sit and use and upgrade our assistants as well. So this was a logical fit between using Copilot as well as using the PayPal extension. But there were some challenges that we had with using our own enterprise level drag, which wasn't able to scale up to all those problems that Copilot was actually taking care of right off the bat here.
Why reinvent the wheel, right? If someone else has
Yeah,
already done the work.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And you mentioned about some of the challenges and stuff. Yeah, I can't and only imagine how hard a project like this must be to get started, implement, test, refine. It's really a developer's dream come true in many ways. Hopefully, this isn't your Magnus opus. Hopefully, you've got a long career of many great things ahead of you. But this sounds like a pretty big one.
Yeah, it was. I think learning about AI in general is something that I would encourage the audience watching this video. Yeah, you got to hop onto this amazing piece, and it's really fantastic what it can do and make it happen. So talking about the challenges that we had, so when we started off with building our enterprise level RAG that was sitting behind the PayPal infrastructure, we actually built our own sort of chat experience, and that chat experience will talk to our API, which is going to handle all the RAG, and we actually had training data for that as well. But what we saw is we had some privacy issues, like because we were actually sending files for our enterprise level RAG to just process those and try to give answers to that. So we got a no from our legal saying you cannot do that. So we
Mm.
had to look out for different ways, and the only way we thought is, okay, let's go with Copilot, who's actually taking care of the user's data as well as ensuring there is privacy in the whole experience. And at the same time, we are leveraging an experience that a lot of developers and merchants are already used to it. Now, that's also an important aspect, that are you using same set of tools and technologies that developers love to use? So Copilot was no different, and a lot of people were actually using it in the industry.
Was there a moment when you were like, this is not going to work, and you felt like um, the project was maybe at a precipice of failure?
Yeah, yeah. I think in my entire software career, yeah, the multiple times, but in this particular project, yes. So, like I mentioned, the scenario that we had when we built our own sort of rack, and we got a no from the privacy or the legal team. We firstly we thought about our jobs, and then we thought about, okay, what's going to happen. So jokes apart, we had to look out for a new and innovative solution to address these kind of problems that arise every now and then. I think Copilot provided that experience, and the way we actually did is mm, we actually leveraged chat participants API, which is provided by VS Code extension, and it's a free API that you could use to interact with Copilot. Now, that makes the entire process easy. You can
Okay.
choose different models that Copilot has, so you don't have to worry about updating your RAG with different set of models and ensuring what works and what doesn't. These problems were taken care of by the whole experience and how we did a shift around it.
So was it at that moment then that you saw a glimmer of hope that the project could actually be completed?
Yeah, yeah. And we actually saw some interesting results compared to our RAG version that we had developed,
Uh,
because you have to train it on multiple languages, train it on multiple set of datas. But
and you don't
here,
mean dev languages. You're talking about like French, English. Is that what you mean?
no, I think both of it, like both of it, like even the localization aspect was there. We didn't support that at that point of time because we were thinking from just solving it in English to start off with. But over here, you have multi-language, which is the
Mm-hmm.
languages that we use in the current world, as well as the dev languages that are out
Sure.
there. So everybody loves to code in different languages. So we had to address that particular problem.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
it comes with its own problem when you use out of the box AI models. Even if you use a user prompt that is provided for giving results, you do end up with some challenges.
Naveen, how did you go about integrating Copilot's generative capabilities with PayPal's own knowledge base? That seems like that's a pretty complicated task.
Mhm. Yeah. So we started off firstly with, so we had a PayPal extension before we started with this whole AI assistant program. And what we thought is, how can we leverage Copilot and have a common problem to solve with both these tools, right? So we have Copilot, which has millions of downloads, and also our PayPal extension having millions of downloads as well. So we saw documentations on the VS Code editor extensions page, which is out open source, so you can read about it. And we started using what's called the Chat Participants API. So in the Chat Participants API, let me go a little deeper. You could actually invoke the Copilot extension. And once you have the Copilot extension, you could actually ask a bunch of questions to it. Now that's going to give pretty basic answers because you haven't given a proper prompt to it, a proper user prompt to it. Now you have to come up with a good user prompt to answering questions related to your own ecosystem, and that's where we started to provide a knowledge based on in that particular user prompt. Now that can be knowledge base related to your APIs, SDKs, or anything in between in whatever problem statement that you have. You could actually build things on top of that particular user prompt. You could provide sources from where it should look up information. Now this works really good for basic level of back and forth interaction. But let's say when you have different codes that you want to actually work with, so how can you actually tell the AI, okay, this is the good practices of maybe invoking orders v2 call, or this is a best practice for generating a token for PayPal. So you actually write few short examples. Now few short examples are nothing but you can write sort of examples written in different languages to ensure the AI actually knows what the correct standards or what the correct code is. Now you feed that particular information as an input data to the AI to actually know, okay, these are the correct standards and these few short examples are going to help me write the code in a systematic fashion. So when we talk about building this particular assistance, you interact with chat participants API, then you have a good user prompt, as well as adding some few short examples, or you can skip a few short examples if that's not one of the problems you have. But having this blend of all of these elements can actually provide good results. And on top of it, you probably need more matrix collection in terms of how those responses are being taken care of. Now, that's also a very interesting aspect, because once you have information provided to the AI, now how can you learn from these particular elements? Like you have provided information. Let's say I'm the end user using the assistant, and I want to actually know how to convert from V5 to V6. As a developer who is building the AI assistant, I should know what are the questions that the users are actually entering. So that helps me build a training data set for the next set of questions that the users can actually ask. So it's more of like building a recommendation system. Okay, what are the questions that can follow up, and the chain of thoughts that can appear through the next conversations. So you have a mental model about how the users will go through one after another. So you actually build your user prompts based on these chain of thought processes that the user will actually help, and that will help the user. So all of these areas are going to make your whole assistant better, and you can actually leverage Azure Insights for storing all your logs and information. We actually use that in our assistant, and you could collect telemetry events if you're building an extension, or you have the Microsoft provided extensions, telemetry library, which is an open source library that you have, or you could use Open Telemetry to actually collect all your events and push it to Datadog or any of the other log monitoring providers out there. But this is really important for building AI. Don't skip this particular step. If you're building, don't just create those UI facing interfaces. You also need to work around how you could get information about how the user behavior is, because that is another way to better your whole ecosystem of AI that you're building.
You can't just have a beautiful car, it's got to have an engine.
Or get an electric one.
Or an electric one. Fantastic. So Naveen, you've talked a bit about enterprise level RAG. What are some of the benefits of local RAG, and what was your experience with it in building out PayPal AI Assistant?
Interesting. Yeah, local RAG, I actually like it because it really sits in on the developers' machines, and you actually install some of the vector databases, like open source vector databases that are out there. So in PayPal, we actually use Elvis DB, but outside you have a bunch of options, which is Pinecode, or you have LanceDB. So you could actually use all of those and build your local RAGs. Now, local RAGs in the current world, the way it works is you provide a set of knowledge base to the the prompt, and those actually get stored into as an embedding in the vector database. Now, whenever you have any information from the assistant that you want, it will actually look into your vector database and provide you information along with the sources, which is basically the citations that you have. Now, these sources are again references to the knowledge base that you have actually shared. Now, you can crawl through your website as part of the whole ecosystem. Let's say developer.paypal.com. I have crawled a bunch of pages and ensured this is the knowledge base that's going to fit in. So whenever the user actually answers any queries related to, let's say, MVP, SOAP to REST APIs or V5 to V6, that knowledge base that is stored in the vector database actually looks up relevant documentations, which are the documents that can be relevant to this particular user problem, and finds it and provides sources to these particular matching prompts that the user actually is looking for. So what this actually does is, as part of the whole experience, you could build local drag in any of your chat applications, any of the AI assistant within the extension or outside of the extension as well. What it does is it takes care of the privacy, because now all the things are sitting in the user's machine, local machine, and there is always the fear that, okay, what if my data is getting sent to some other AI provider? And we all know a lot of AI providers are really taking the data seriously. So it can be one of those solutions that can help different users have privacy controls, and it ensures the results are not going to be drastically different. It's just going to kind of be similar to what the enterprise level drags have. But there are caveats to this particular approach, that you have to constantly update this particular local drag or look up for information, or have a cron job that is going to look up through your website or crawl more pages, because as the pages get uploaded, you might want to crawl through it and get back those particular pages. So there are different drawbacks to it. If you go with the enterprise ones, they also have a cron job that can periodically hit, but the way it works is seamless to the user. It's not dependent on the end user here. So local RAG, definitely I would highly recommend start with local RAG even before you want to start off with your RAG application. I would say spinning up a local RAG is fairly straightforward. There are different libraries in Python, Java, and PHP that folks can actually use, which are open source, which have vector databases, which have embeddings in it, and you could actually just use it out of the box with just a couple of lines of code as well.
All right. So, Naveen, thanks for explaining to us about the local enterprise level RAG. Then the next thing that I think our audience is going to care about here is understanding how you prompted the PayPal AI assistant and how you kind of built out the code base. What's happening behind the scenes in a project like this?
Yeah, interesting question there. So yeah, we started off with a basic prompt engineering problem. So here we started off by providing a user level prompt that can solve most of the problems that we talked about, MVP SOAP to REST, as well as the V5 to V6. So we had a user level prompt that worked with the Copilot experience. So once you have those kind of prompt engineering, you actually find that, okay, it's giving good results based on different models, but there are some drawbacks to using just prompt engineering. So I'll come back to that, what are the drawbacks, but in terms of how you actually use prompt engineering, now prompt engineering is getting really popular. So you could actually create different prompts using AI itself, and have a chain of thought process to that particular prompt that you're providing. So you can learn more about prompt engineering on different websites. Even a lot of AI providers provide
Vibe coding.
yeah, vibe coding.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you will understand about how prompts are written. They need to be detailed, they need to be specific, and they need to address a wider set of capabilities that you want your assistant to be provided with. Now, a prompt can have different areas like security, guardrails. Now, what guardrails means, so guardrails are basically, think about, you built your house, you have fencing around it, that ensures no other person actually enters your house. So in the AI assistant world, you want your application to have guardrails so that the AI doesn't provide any gibberish answers. So your prompt needs to have these areas covered as well as certain sources. Now, talking about certain sources, these models are sometimes trained on a year back of data, so you might need to provide more information to the AI assistant, okay, or the user prompt, okay, where is this particular source coming from, what is the use case that this source can be used for. Now, this works really well for most of the problems, but in our case we had some more challenges which I can talk about, yeah, later.
Yeah, so you mentioned the guardrails, right? And security, proprietary code, very, very important for developers to keep for their clients and themselves. What guardrails do you have in place here to reassure the developer community that PayPal AI Assistant isn't going to take from their prompts and from their code base as it's trying to help them?
When you talk about guardrails, it's those questions that we have to constantly evaluate our AI assistant into. Now, these questions can be any questions related to, hey, how can I make sofa? My assistant should not be answering this particular question, but there are some users or there are some people that can actually enter these particular questions, or questions that are non-relevant or not relevant to your particular assistant as well. So how do you ensure that your AI assistant doesn't provide solutions to these kind of problems that are not relevant to your code base or your assistant problems? So you actually put in guardrails, ensure that it doesn't go out of the periphery of the area that you have, and works only for those sort of problem statements. So we built an evaluation system that actually has so there are two stages to it. Before you even deploy the AI assistant, we do a pre-eval analysis. Now, in the pre-eval analysis, we actually put in information related to guardrails. So we tested on different options or questions that the users can actually enter. Now, these are negative sort of questions that the user might enter. We want to make sure that the response that the AI assistant is providing can be in different variations, because every time the response can be different, but it is in line with not answering these questions. So you can actually have this as a pre-evaluation step. You could generate reports. So we actually do that on a regular basis. We have a cron job that actually does evaluations for us. Now, these evaluations also take into consideration the quality, the guardrails that we have, and even the responses that we are actually providing to the users.
So that's very helpful about the guardrails and just the processes you have in place to kind of protect the ongoing feedback loop, if you will. But I'm sure that besides feedback, you're also proactively upgrading this tool all the time. More knowledge, more context. Talk to me about that ongoing augmentation process that you have at PayPal.
Yeah, I think when we started off with this particular area, we, like I mentioned, we started off with prompt engineering, but soon we realized, okay, we are actually, our answers are not deterministic, or the parameters that it is trying to map to are not deterministic. So how do you actually solve this particular problem? Is providing the mapping files that are required as part of the whole experience along with the prompt engineering. So what that happened to provide is provide more deterministic mappings. So as part of this whole journey, we saw, okay, because you have different parameters of NPP mapped to different PayPal REST APIs. So how do you ensure these parameters are correctly mapped and ensure the standards are maintained? Because AI sometimes can be hallucinating. It can give out results that may not be correct. So you have to constantly test your AI assistants to ensure it doesn't do hallucinations. You can provide in feedback that actually is again feeded into the AI to ensure that it ensures your quality of responses, and it doesn't go beyond a particular threshold that happens. So you constantly test it on these particular areas, and we saw is after adding mapping files we saw considerable improvement in our answer quality. Yeah, now you could actually measure these answer qualities by having open source tools, but you could also build your in-house tool that could help you gauge what your answer quality is, what and how you actually were in the previous version. So coming back to the versioning, right? So once you incrementally build things, you need to ensure what worked for the previous version. You have to ensure the quality is good and you are actually bettering the answers rather than degrading the answers, because oftentimes it can happen that if you move to the newer versions or new areas, you can degrade the existing quality. So we have, like I mentioned before, we have the post eval tool as well that generates report. If once the version is out there, you could generate reports periodically and understand how it is faring in the live world.
Wow, that's sounds complicated and exhilarating all at the same time, Naveen. Last question on kind of your experience in building this out. Were there any unexpected technical challenges or limitations that you came into while integrating the Copilot's intelligence with the VS Code extension framework? Because I know you told us about the limitations with the RAG earlier. Did you
Yeah.
find any limitations here that you had to overcome?
Yeah, so since we are actually using Copilot and we have our extension, so we wanted to collect some information about how and who the user is. How do we actually collect that? When you have a third party system like Copilot, usually handling all of the data, how can we ensure we get some business insights that's going to help us try to build new things or new capabilities? So we actually provided telemetry events within our extension that actually help us try to understand what the user base is, where the user base is from, and try to collect information about what user prompts are being provided. So we know that these are some of the questions. We can actually take those questions, retrain the whole experience, and ensure that our responses are also correct, and reevaluate and put in again those input data as part of the input data. So yeah, we have to do a feedback loop. Like I mentioned, it's really fundamental in any AI problem that you have. That how can you ensure the feedback loop is again put as an input as a training parameter, and that actually funnels good answer quality and good results in the whole experience.
It's context, right? It's all about the GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. You've got to go ahead and keep refining that, keep weeding out the bad context, if you will, and reinforcing the good context.
Exactly. Good that you brought up the topic of context engineering. So as part of that, we when we started off with parameters and mappings, we thought, okay, this is going to work out, but we soon hit a deadlock where, okay, there was one team within PayPal who wanted a V5 to V6, and the documentations were in limited release.
Hmm.
We didn't have access to certain documentation. Now, how do you solve this particular problem? So we thought, okay, let's use context engineering, provide more information to our AI about this particular use case, get information from different teams about how you try to upgrade V5 to V6, part of the context that you provide. Now, what context does different is you can actually provide source. Think of it like a local RAG or a RAG that you are using, but with proper sources that you define. Now, that can be reference URLs as well as the citations from where the sources. And that actually helps you in trying to better your results. And context engineering is part of the next level of prompt engineering, where you provide all these informations, ensure it's a barrage of suite of information knowledge base that you're feeding the AI, and ensuring the correct results happen. So yeah, it's part of the whole system where once you provide this information, you collect information about how it is doing compared to prompt engineering. Then you evaluate, okay, which one is better or results wise. So you will see RAG consistently gives better results, and we are actually working on having a local RAG that users can actually control their data, have information source built within the local system so that it's easy for them to access information.
Naveen, you learned so much in this process. If we could just learn a few things, nuggets of truth, wisdom, advice from you for other developers who are listening to this podcast right now about how to implement AI powered tools into their own tech stack. Uh, how can they build tools that actually captivate trust and deliver value for their own customers based upon your own experiences?
Yeah, Derek, I think there's no simple answer to that. There's so many things out there in the AI world. I'm still learning on a day-to-day basis, but I would tell the audience watching this video is start off with a basic problem statement, have that problem
Mm.
statement, define it, what you really want as part of the whole experience that you are doing. Now you can choose multiple areas. You can build your own agent, you can build your own assistant, or you can just build a chat application. Now you define what this problem statement is. You have defined what the areas of medium or communication is going to look like. Then you actually move to what is the models that you're going to support, how you can train this particular model. Ensure you start off with prompt engineering first, then move to context engineering, which can be RAG or enterprise level RAGs that you have, and then move into, if there are use cases you want to fine tune the whole data, you could do that as part of the next process itself. But I would take this incrementally. You don't have to jump to fine tuning the data or the model or going to the RAG all of a sudden. You start off small and increment to the next levels, and you will see phenomenal results on the way. You will learn so much about how AI really works, what are embeddings, what are citations, how do you actually put all of that together. And yeah, that's pretty exciting.
So start with the end in mind and then start solving incremental problems along that pathway to get you where you want to go.
Absolutely.
Okay. Naveen, absolutely fantastic. I have loved having you on. I'm sure that developers have so many more questions for you and the PayPal dev team as you guys build a AI tech forward platform that helps to breathe life into agentic e-commerce. How could developers engage with you more? You talked about GitHub a moment ago. Are there other tools, resources available for developers to get involved?
Yeah, so we are actually working on some areas where we might expand to different editors that are out there in the market. And that's where we might need your help, who's watching the video or who's not watching the video, to contribute to learn new things that can help elevate this particular product. And yeah, be on the lookout for emails or notifications from the PayPal developer community so that we are going to launch new things that are going to help you make the experience even better.
And as a PayPal champion myself, I can let you know, go to developer.paypal.com. You can join the community there. You can even sign up for the PayPal Champion Program, which is basically an ambassador program for developers in the community who want to have insider knowledge, sneak peeks at some of the things that are being developed on the inside track with great people like Naveen. Highly recommend it. Thank you for tuning in on this PayPal Dev Talk with us today, and we hope to see you in the next one.
Thank you, Terry.